Hello and welcome to the IRN-CRU podcast, the American football podcast made in Scotland by NFL lovers. And it's not just NFL we're talking tonight. We are in the company of a couple of old pirates as we celebrate 40 years of the East Kilbride Pirates. First up, I'm going to introduce our star guest. We've got Spoonie, the head coach of the Pirates, with us this evening. Spoonie, thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
And we're going to talk all things about Pirates, about your involvement with the team for the past couple of decades and how things are going this season, what your hope for the future. We're also joined by regular crew member as well, and our dandy Raven, Mikey. Mikey, how are we, bud?
I'm doing well, thanks. Thanks, Keith. Welcome to Spoonie as well. Good to see you again, mate.
Yeah, lovely to see you, bro.
So, 40 years of the East Kilbride Pirates, Scotland's oldest BAFA team, so most successful BAFA team as well that we've produced, and just some of the finest moments in Scottish amateur American football have come from the Pirates. So 40 years, this Sunday you will be celebrating with a homecoming game against the Manchester Titans. Spoonie, you looking forward to the matchup?
Yeah, it's an interesting one for us. We played the Titans earlier this year and we lost by about 30 points away in Bellevue Stadium down there. And it was a close first half. We were only 6-0 down at the half, but the second half we just let the game get away from us. And, especially by the end, we're chasing it, and that just leads to things going from bad to worse at times. So that's frustrating. The Titans have been the kind of best team in the North for the last probably 3 or 4 years. They won a couple of national championships, not last year, but the 2 previous. So they've been a really strong opponent up here. And the challenge is we know we've got the pieces of the puzzle to beat them. It's just whether we can put it all together, And so far this season, we've been pretty patchy. We've had some moments of real quality, and then we had some moments where it just hasn't worked. And so it's a case of whether we can get that across the line on Sunday.
My first Pirates game was actually against the Titans, and as you said, that first half was really, really close. I think it was 2 seasons ago. Unfortunately, I couldn't stay for the whole game. It was great fun, great experience to be there, and I've been back a couple of times since with my son. So yeah, very much looking forward to getting along on Sunday. There's 2 games on Sunday. Is it the under-19s first?
Yeah, our under-19s play against the Napier Knights, who have won the conference up here and already secured their playoff berth. That's at 12 o'clock at GHA, and then we play at 3:30.
Fantastic. So south side of Glasgow, dead easy to get to, loads of parking, and it's always good for the sweets, the treats, the drinks, and the EK Pirate merchandise up the back of the stand as well. Unfortunately, didn't have any t-shirts in my size, which was huge last time I was there. So
make that same complaint, that if I'm ordering for British American football, I'm just getting loads of 2XLs. And I get there 5 minutes after the new merch has landed, and they're like, "Oh, there's none left." I was like, "What I need to do?"
Definitely.
That was always the same with the hoodies and everything. And it was
always. We've never learned.
The players never got any because it was like
it's gone before you get.
I did manage to get a wee sticker last time, so I'm downstairs. I'm in the kitchen just now because the podcast room's getting renovated, and by renovated I mean everything else from the house is just being fired in there now till we get round to it over the summer holidays, which I certainly will do.
If you call that merch, well, I've got a wee bit of old nostalgia there. I was showing Spoonie.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if we can see that on you. I think that would have to be a pay-per-view. If we could see right through that.
Only fans, Mikey, was it not?
Aye.
I've got it everywhere. It's on.
Yes.
It's on. It's even on there. It's nice. Can't get away from
that devotion.
What I would say is, I did have a pair of shorts. I must have. Spoonie was one of the first people that introduced me to it's all right to wear shorts anytime.
Right. I'm wearing them right now.
And I had a pair of pirate shorts that I actually had to throw out last year because they were wore. Yeah.
So tell us a wee bit about how you started with the Pirates then, Spoonie.
Yeah, of course. So I first played at university for the Glasgow University Tigers in the 05-06 season. So that was my last year of studying at uni. So I'd I'd gone along at the start of uni. I'd always been a fan of the sport and watched it. And then I met some guys in my first year when the Claymores were still playing. The Glasgow University team used to run buses to the games. So their seasons were always split where they'd play some games at Hampden and some games at Murrayfield. And I think it was a Murrayfield game I went through to. And I went along to that. And then, they were like, oh, you should come along and play for the Tigers, because I'm a big guy and they're always looking for linemen. And I was like, yeah, I'll definitely come along to a practice. So that was my first year. In my fourth year, I was like, I did make a promise. I should probably go and give it a go. And I had a strange situation where it wasn't my fourth year, it was my fifth year. I'd already graduated, but I was doing a sabbatical. So I was still technically a student, which meant I could still play sports, but I didn't have any study, I didn't have any courses to go to. So I went along and tried it out. And I only did it because I wanted to write an article for the university newspaper about the life of a rookie and trying a new sport and stuff, and just fell in love with it. And then a couple of the boys there, Matty and Pebbles, they were like, oh, there's a league that goes through the summer, and we're playing for a team called East Kilbride Pirates. You should come along and play there. And I was staying in Glasgow over the summer, so I said, yeah, why not? Went along. And that was 2006. And I played 7 seasons, 6 till 12. And then before I stepped down as a player, I'd started coaching through at Napier University, because I lived through in Edinburgh. After my first year, I moved east. I'm originally from the northeast, but I moved through here for work. And so I started coaching, and that kind of overlapped with the end of my playing time. And then when I stepped down as a player, I coached the offensive line for a few years at the Pirates. And then in 2016, I took on the head coach job for the under-19s. So I was head coach there for 4 years. And then after that, I took a little bit of time away, about a year or so out from the sport, but it was during COVID anyway. There wasn't anything going on. And I then became the assistant head coach of the Great Britain men's national team for a couple of years, about 3 years ago, alongside Jason Scott, and I was the special teams coordinator there as well. And then at the end of the 23 season, I stepped down from that role and I came back to the Pirates as head coach. So this is my second year as head coach. But even in that gap where I wasn't with the Pirates, I sponsored the team through my business, and I was still involved with doing some guest coaching with the women's team and helping out, with the 19s and stuff. So I've basically been continuously involved with the Pirates since for almost 20 years. It'll be 20 years next spring.
What was it that got you into American football in the first place? Was it, I think, like most of the 90s?
We're having a chat before this call opened about watching on Channel 4. And when I was really little, I used to record it. And of course, I didn't have a clue what was going on, but they were wearing helmets and running about, and it looked really cool. So I just kind of loved all that stuff. I used to record the Super Bowl every year and watch it and things. And I think what probably really appealed to me when I kind of got closer to it as a player was the fact that, I was never a great football player. I was never a rugby player of any caliber. Doing a little bit of PE was about the extent of that. And so I'd never really found a sport that I could kind of fit in at, I could never make my own. And then when you play off American football and there's an opportunity to play on the offensive line, defensive line, positions that traditional sports people in Scottish or British sports, just, there's opportunities for you here that don't exist there, and that was really it. And I think once you get in, the camaraderie, it's the combination of the strategy and the technique versus just the violence. I just loved the kind of combination of, there's like all these plays that people spend all this time drawing up, but really you just snap the ball and just gouge the guy in front of his eyes out. It's, it's without the referee seeing, and away you go.
It's funny you say that, right? Because my thing is, I played it. I was 29 at the time, so I was late, and weirdly, I went to Edinburgh Napier. And I remember, try out, and never done it. So I had a regret of not trying it. And then when I remember going to the first tryout with the Pirates, it was like, where do you want to play? And remember, the first thing somebody said to me was, do you want to be the guy getting hit, or do you want to be the guy doing the hitting? And I was like, hitting, defense. There you go. And Spoonie's right, because it's one of these sports that, until you start playing it and understanding, it's technical as anything. But in terms of, there's a lot of equalizers for a lot of people, because you can just put your pads on and just hit, and you're getting chewed out and you've done the wrong assignment and all that sort of thing. But you go again, and it's one of these sports. I think that's why we all start to love it, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a beautiful thing.
With you mentioned how the Pirates have grown. You've got the under-19s. I see the Buccaneers, is it? They do training in Hamilton, which I think is an affiliation with the Pirates.
So,
of course,
we've got the Buccaneers flag team So that's under 11, under 14, under 17. And my daughter's playing now. She's playing the under 11s flag. And then we've got the Pirates youth who are under 16s, and then Pirates under 19s, and then the senior team. So you can start at like 7 years old playing flag, and then go all the way through right up to senior contact.
The big thing for me is how it's now an Olympic sport, the flag football, and I'm looking forward. I'm a teacher myself, so I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing it making its way into PE lessons, because it is it's energetic, it's quick, but with the flag football, it's more cerebral. There's not the physical violence that you get to enjoy as you get through your teens.
And the thing is, I love it, right? I love the physicality of it, but I also recognise that that's one of the things that has put a lot of people off. I actually had a call earlier on today with a lady I know through work who's based in Long Island, and she was saying she didn't let her sons play contact football because of the risk of concussion and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of people are the same. Whereas flag, of course, you could still run into people. You could still get concussed that way, but it's certainly far, far less frequent. And this weekend just passed, I was down at the British American Football Coaches Association annual conference down in Staffordshire. And I was emceeing the AGM, and I was emceeing the Hall of Fame dinner and things like that. And I was speaking as well as attending a load of stuff and learning a load of things. And one of the things that was really interesting was Chad, the CEO of the sport, was talking in that AGM about getting into schools, really kind of driving that as a participation entry point, because that's what we need to do if we want to grow it. And the great thing is, one of the big challenges we've got with kitted football, particularly for adults, is it costs a lot of money. You know, a set of pads and a helmet, you're talking, you know, even for bottom of the range stuff, you're talking well over 300 quid nowadays, you know, let alone if you want to get top of the range stuff. And so if we want to set a team up from scratch where you're going to have guys that don't have any kit, you're going to be spending thousands of pounds to do it. Whereas if you want to get a flag team set up, you know, a couple hundred quid and you'd a bag of cones, some flag belts and some balls and some bibs or whatever, and away you go, you know, and you can have that in the boot of your car and get it going. So I think you're absolutely right. Getting into schools, growing it that way, and then using that to give people that fork to continue playing flag or to go into the contact game is going to be huge.
I think personally, one of the things I've noticed is if they can maybe amend the dimensions of the pitches so that they fit inside a 7-a-side pitch. We've got plenty of throughout Scotland. Yeah.
And that's exactly it. It's really just like a lot of it's about reducing the barriers to entry, and, you know, combined with the fact that it being an Olympic sport, certainly at least in 28, will really push up the visibility of it. And then I think the real kind of the real proof point for the flag version is going to be, do they keep it on from 28 to 32 when it's going to be out in on Australia? And I'm really hopeful they do, and because Australia have invested heavily in flag football as well, so, you know, again, the home team opportunity to kind of get some hype over there. And I think if they get it past those two Olympic cycles, I think it'll grow massively, because, you know, it's a sport that, again, it's fast, it's fun, it's easy to teach the basics, and you can just get stuck in.
No doubt by that time, Mikey, we'll probably have seen an NFL game over in Australia somewhere. There's been the kickers coming through as well. The transition from Aussie rules. Yeah.
The Australia game's got to happen. It's the worldwide thing is going to, with ever growing, isn't it? So,
and interestingly enough, there's a few British guys out there right now. So Russ Hewitt, who was heavily involved with running the sport over here, is now a big part of running the sport over there. And there's a guy called Tom Lee, who used to play at a variety of places. He played at Kent Exiles Juniors, then he played at Stirling University, and I coached him at Great Britain. He's out at the NFL Academy in Australia. You know, so there's guys from over here who have kind of built a career out there. So yeah, I think they're really going to push it, and it's hopefully going to become a big deal, because, as I say, once you can get it in front of the crowds that you get watching the Olympics, then the sky's the limit.
The thing is, with the flag, it's this week's the Flag World Championships in Canton, Ohio as well.
Yeah.
8 national squads, so apparently there's like ESPN, Disney, everybody's showing it, so it's going to be massive. And I think last start I seen, it was couple of years, it might be last year or the year before, but there was like 1.6 million girls in America are playing it, and that, just when you've got 6 or 7 million people and a good portion of that is the female, it's brilliant for the growth. Because like you said, Spoonie, some people will play it and then go, I like it, and move into kitted and move into that, and some won't. But what I kind of like about flag as well is some of the people like me who get injured and my time goes up too early and kitted, it's an avenue for people to say, well, go back into the sport.
And there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people playing, still at high level in the UK who are ex-contact players. So David McAnally, Macca used to play for the Pirates. Then he went down to Manchester and played for them, and he's in the GB men's squad, and for Flag because he had that ability to understand the game and he's got the physicality to keep going, and one of the interesting things the sport's really working on now to try and drive the kind of top level the kind of performance aspect is getting those crossover guys. Like, who are the guys who are playing, a really high level of contact, who could be, a real asset in Flag and vice versa, and just trying to maximize that, because the sport's just announced this weekend that they've had another couple of years of funding from Sport England and UK Sport, and so the sport's gone my entire lifetime and basically the entire lifetime of the sport without getting any funding at all, and now suddenly it's an Olympic sport, and we've had about £1 million of funding over the last couple of years, which is a huge deal. It's still not an awful lot when you think of what it costs to have those performance teams, but compared to nothing, it's a long way they've come, so it's nice to see.
I think as well with the shift, sorry Keith, just with the shift with the NFL and the Pro Bowl and all that sort of stuff and that excitement, I think that's just got to carry, because people are into that more excitingly than the traditional Pro Bowl games that we're probably used to.
Really? It highlights the more entertaining, the sexier parts of the game, as opposed to the, like we mentioned, the violent, aggressive nature of contact football, which in itself is a really intriguing part, and a lot goes into that as well. But the throwing, the routes that they make, that is, it's great to see. And as you said, it's an avenue for people who maybe can't play the contact anymore. It's like 5-a-sides for us old guys that can't play 11s anymore. It's a good way to keep that game going. The fact that you've got 1.6 million girls in America, that's brilliant. That's just going to keep going and going and going. And we've had Izzy Garachi on the podcast in the past, and how much the game has just developed over there, and everything that happens over there tends to take a wee while to come over here. And we've got a couple of great flag players through the Pirates as well, that are going on to represent Team GB.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even at the moment, we've got the under-19 head coach, Tam McKendrick. His daughter Leah is going to be going out and playing for GB. She was on the under-15s and under-17s now. We've got Abby Coleman's like a absolute superstar of the sport. She's out getting it done, and it's just great. We've got a couple of our boys played in the first under-17s GB game just at the weekend there. A couple of under-17s did as well. So yeah, the opportunities to that's one of the great things about our sport, right? Is if you imagine if you started playing rugby today and you were, say, a teenager, the likelihood is that if you do play for Scotland or, make it to the Lions or whatever, it's going to be a lot of years down the road. There's opportunities now. If you're a decent athlete and you're committed, you can break into those high level squads very, very quickly, because it's still a growing sport. There's still opportunities. So that's one of the things we need to do as a sport, is attract more athletes. In the same way as a lot of people probably don't appreciate this, but when you look at some of the Olympic and the Winter Olympic sports like bobsleigh and skeleton and stuff, and even cycling and some of the other things there are kind of track cycling rather than road cycling. They've taken a lot of people who were really good at other sports and had no experience of those at all, but because of their physical attributes, and they've turned them into that. So, for example, track athletes, sprinters that maybe aren't going to make it to the very top level of the world on the track, put them on the ice, pushing a bobsleigh, pushing a skeleton, a luge, whatever it is, and suddenly those guys can have a new lease of life. So we need to be thinking about how do we find great athletes from other sports and convert them into flag and contact.
I love how Cool Runnings was the first thing that came into all of our minds.
I'll tell you a funny story. At the coaches convention at the weekend there was a really great session by a guy called Alex Lenkowski, who's the kicker for the Titans, who'll be against us this weekend, and for Great Britain. Him and his sort of partner, they run a business, and they were there talking about the kicking game and some real technique stuff, like really geeky, coachy technique stuff, but really, really good. And then one of the questions from the audience was like, what happens if you don't, kind of do you prefer to have the laces out? And I was like, guys, we've all seen Ace Ventura, come on, this is basic stuff. All these pop culture references from our sport.
But I think that's one of the things that American football does, is it sells itself, and it just seeps its way into the zeitgeist, doesn't it?
It's because it's just so big over there. Like, I'm wearing an Alabama shirt, so I love the NFL, but my big passion really in terms of watching it is college football. And a couple of years ago, last year we were in Houston and went to see Rice play. It's a couple of high school games. But the year before, we flew into South Carolina and we did a road trip right through Georgia, through Alabama, up through the corner of Mississippi, and then right across Tennessee into North Carolina and back. And we went to a couple of high school games, one in Selma in Alabama, one in North Carolina, and then we went to see Alabama play in Nick Saban's last season, and then we went to see North Carolina play with the quarterback who's now at the Patriots, and and they lost. They were playing against Virginia, who are their kind of next door neighbors. Virginia were 1-6, and they were like dominant, and they lost. But like, you go there and you see this, and you meet the people locally, and you see the way that in parts, it's unbelievable. And in parts of that, parts like that in the US, there's big areas of the US where there aren't any nearby NFL teams. It's just all, like Alabama, for example. You drive across the state and it's all Auburn flags on one side, and then you kind of cross a certain point, it's all Alabama on the other side. It's, their passion for it's huge, and I think, that's why it's just it's steeped in every part of their culture over there.
It's funny you say that.
If I make it.
No,
I
was
was just saying, it's funny. I love how... Right, you go.
No.
Mikey, go first.
Right. I love how you say that, though, because my cousin's, she went to West Virginia, and she used to tell me about that, and it's like country roads and how amazing and how big it was. And it's like you said, there could be an NFL. There isn't an NFL team associated, but they all go to college, and then it's like they just grow. And she's been out of uni for a while now, but it's still
it's part of your DNA.
Proud, yeah.
When I went to see Alabama, they're playing against Arkansas, and there's 100,077 seats in the stadium, absolutely packed, full house. Fly over from a stealth bomber before the game, and then they'll play like "Friends in Low Places" by Garth Brooks, and people just absolutely lose their minds. Like, honestly, it's just they just absolutely love it, and I love the NFL. I was at the first international series game where the Giants beat the Dolphins the season we won the Super Bowl. I went to see I've seen the Giants play at MetLife against the Steelers. My wife and daughter were actually the last time the Giants were over. I think it was when we played the Packers. I couldn't make it because I was working in Australia at the time. And I love the NFL, but the college games are a different gravy. I mean, the people are just it's absolutely steeped in their kind of their lives, So it's a beautiful thing.
I've not got a college team yet. Notre Dame probably would be my one growing up. Grown up I had a couple of Fighting Irish t-shirts. So
but ultimately, it's like that's one of the most storied programs in college football. They only recently became affiliated to a conference. They'd been like the unaffiliated team forever. And, just like a huge history. And every team is like that. Like, their histories are amazing. There's characters have come through and played for them. And one of the really beautiful things, especially for all your NFL fans, I'd really encourage you to get involved in watching college, because there's something amazing about seeing a player at college that you've watched and watching where they end up in the draft and how they progress and the coaches that they play, and when they're playing against guys and with guys they played with and against at college. It's a really beautiful thing. It's great to see them progress.
I find as well,
Mikey and all that. Michael, I'm going first this time. You shut your face.
We need a hand system.
It's actually to Mikey and the other boys in the crew that this is like my fourth year following the NFL, and it's like learning a language, and each year I'm getting a new layer added on top. So started watching a couple of the college games last year, and like you said, the fandom there is incredible. The way it's getting promoted just now, ESPN's doing a fantastic job. Getting McAfee involved with that just raises its name across the place, whether you're a big fan of his or not. But it's good to see people like Saban getting involved in there as well. And
those two are phenomenal double act. Like McAfee and Saban on the desk, especially like just the nonsense that comes out of Pat McAfee's mouth and stuff. And even when they had Shane Gillis on and he was roasting Nick Saban for paying players and stuff. Like it's really, really good fun. Really good fun. Interesting story actually, talking about seeing guys come all the way through. They've obviously started doing the college games over in Ireland again, and after quite a long break. But kind of when they did them the first time around, the Pirates have played a load of Division 3 college teams from the States over the years. Kind of they fly over and have like a sort of cultural excursion and play a game. And naturally we get absolutely piped, but it's an amazing experience. But the company that we used for that were called Global Football, and the guy who ran it got in contact. This is quite a bit pre-COVID, and he's like, "Oh, we've got the college teams coming over, but we're also sending over 6 high school teams, and they're going to have like a mini tournament on the Saturday or like the Friday before the college game on the Saturday. If you want, you can send over 3 coaches, and just like each coach can be allocated to one of those teams and just spend 4 or 5 days with them and with their coaches and everything." And we were like, amazing. So me and Jamos and Nicky, my 2 coordinators at the time, went over and we spent time with them. And one of the teams was called St. Peter's Prep, and Minka Fitzpatrick had just left there to go to Alabama. So I was speaking to all these parents who knew him, and then I'm watching him play for Alabama, and then I watch him get drafted in the NFL, and so it's amazing just like seeing these guys come all the way through. And it's the whole thing, the way it all ties together is really, really good. It's once you get into it, Keith, you'll watch. And the best thing is then you've got your Saturday afternoon set, right? You've got all your games there. Then you've got your Sunday afternoon set because all your games there. It's a beautiful thing.
I think
you've got an awfully understanding wife. Sorry, Mikey.
All I was going to say is I remember when the Global Football guys came over and Spoonie was talking about that, and I think we played Hanover and we got beat 52-0, and it was and I'm not just saying this because at the time with the Pirates when I was playing, we were 24. I think we'd won the Premier North and stuff, and we were doing so well at the time, and we had harder practices than some of the teams we were playing, and then we played Hanover, and man, these guys were 17, 18, and they were like their technique, the way they just, it was a lesson. We all loved it. And then I still remember us the night out and then campus and like a lot, and it's like, but these kids were like, you could tell, and this was at the time, I think you're right, Spoonie, it was Division 3, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So
Division 3, yeah.
But some of them were just special, and to think that there was other levels for the guys.
Oh yeah. And that is it. Like it was the same this year. Last year we played against Alma College, and they were I think they were ranked number 6 in the whole of Division 3 in the whole of the US. But there's a big step between Division 3 and kind of Division 1. You get players at Division 3 who could play at Division 1, but obviously everybody at Division 1 can play at Division 1, so it's a big step up. But again, I mean, this year we played against in fact, these guys, the coach literally just sent me a thank you message today, a little parcel that had this. And here's another funny story, actually. Centre College, who came over to play us this year, we used to have a guy that played for the Pirates called Tom Lechendro, known as Sauce. And he is their D-line coach. That's how they came over. He's over there
Sauce,
for those guys. And Sauce came over and the team came over and played us. And I mean, we got beaten by like 70 points, but it's an amazing experience, and it just shows the gulf. And a lot of that really just comes down to 2 things. One is they started much earlier, they're playing from the point you can stand upright. And secondly, they're practicing 5-6 days a week, and you can't compete with that. But yeah, there's opportunities for our guys. And if you've been watching the NFL Academy, which is based at Loughborough University these days, a few of their coaches were speaking, guys I've known for years, like Jack Farr as their running backs and Gav Collins, the O-line coach. They were speaking at the convention, and they've just had another player that's going to be going off to the USF Bulls. He's just been kind of taken over there. So, they're getting guys placed into big schools in the States, and yeah, it's nice.
Were you able to take little hints and tips from the technique from what they were doing and the plays that they were doing and absorb it into your game as well?
Absolutely. There's a few things about it. One is it's just fun, right? It's a fun experience, both the game and then the night out, especially because most of those guys are not old enough legally to drink back home. So they talk a good game about the boozing, and then we just kind of give them the score on that, right? We even the score there. But it's the discipline, the rigor, the structure of how they kind of practice and prepare. And I always tell our guys, if I'm playing O-line and going up against, Keith, who's playing for the college team, and if I beat him on 5 or 6 plays in the whole game, that's a pretty good day out for us, like those individual battles one-on-one. But it's technique. The big thing that really makes the difference is the speed. We had, and I don't mean speed in terms of like individual flat kind of 40-yard speed. What I mean is to play with like aggression speed every time. So we at halftime, we were a bit light on DBs because we had a few guys missing and a couple of injuries. So I went to our head coach beforehand and he'd said, look, we'll see how we're doing at halftime if we need to make any changes. So I went to them at halftime. I said, Coach, I need some DBs. I'm going to make the big NIL deal transfer here, right? And so I was like, I'll take these 3 guys. Now they're obviously delighted because now they get to go full contact, full kit against their own teammates, right? Who they probably spend all this time winding up and back. We got these kids over, obviously put them on special teams straight away, right? Because why wouldn't you? So we're kicking off second half. We put this kid called Brooks at L2, so second from the outside on the left-hand side on kickoff, right? And the ball was kicked deep right and was returned up the far sideline. And he came off the ball, downfield, evaded all the blocks, went round the back of everybody, up the far sideline and made the tackle on the 10-yard line. Right. And we were all watching it like, no way. And the reason he did that is when he was a quick kid, but it's just like the unbelievable hustle. And the thing I always point out to our guys is that that's not a skill that you either have or you don't. Like everybody can hustle, whether it's hustling in your office job, whether it's hustling in terms of, in the gym, whether it's hustling on the field. Like there's no excuses for not kind of putting that effort in. And so that's the stuff I want them to see when we watch back on the film and stuff. It's like, that's non-negotiable,
One thing you mentioned there was watching back in film. What sort of preparation goes into games for your games for the Pirates? Do you get them in to watch some film? Is that something that you send homework for them to do?
Absolutely.
How much training do you get?
We've we use a system called Huddle, which is quite common in the UK. There's another one called Quick Cut, but it's not quite as good. But Huddle's used pretty universally across the US as well. And in Huddle, we basically film every practice and we film every game. And we also exchange film with the other teams in our division. So in Premier North, we're quite lucky. We've all got a pretty good relationship. So if Keith's team's playing against Mikey's team, on a Sunday, by kind of tea time on the Monday, I'll have the film of that. And if I've been playing somebody, they'll have the film of that as well. And so we break every film down by play. And when you get film of an American football game or a practice, it's not like a single continuous clip. It's clip of every single play. So you can straight up mark if it's offense, defense, special teams, and then you can mark, what it is you're looking for. So if I'm an offensive coordinator, I'll be looking at the defense of Manchester, for example. I'll be marking up, like what formation were they in, what coverage did they run, and what was the down and distance and some of these things. And you can kind of start to get a feel for, okay, well, if we're in third and long, they're more likely to give us this look. If we're lined up in this formation, we can expect this. And then from that, you build scout cards. So if I was the defensive coordinator, for example, I'd be like, right, their 3 most frequently run, most successful run plays are this, this, and this. And I'd have them drawn up on cards, bring them to practice. And I'd be like, Keith, you're our offensive coordinator. I want you to run those plays like a scout team. So you would get our guys lined up and run Manchester's first play, Manchester's second play, Manchester's third play, and we go against that. So there's a lot of film analysis, both in terms of watching ourselves, reviewing what it is we're doing, what's going well, what's not going so well. Like right now, as we speak, our offensive line are on their weekly call with their coaches going through their film prep for the weekend. After the game, it's like, what did we do well? What did we do not so well that we need to work on ourselves? Same with practices. And before games, it's like, right, what do we see the defensive line of Manchester doing? Who's fast? Who's quick? What are their favorite pass rush moves? How do they attack the technique? That's kind of what are the blitzes and stunts that they run. And you want to kind of build up a bit of an understanding so that when I go against those guys on game day, I feel like I've got a bit of a kind of head start on where they are. And of course, because we've played them once already, that film from the last time will feature quite heavily. So yeah, it's a big part of what we do.
I think just on that, Keith, when I first joined the sport and thought, I can't wait to play this, the big thing that I took from it was see the homework. And it was and so being quite a technical guy, I loved it because, and as Spoonie says, you get your login for Huddle and you're watching the plays and you're trying to see if there's anything you can do and see where you can be better. I always used to get chewed out from Nicky. It was if you hadn't done enough homework, you hadn't, because you could tell how much your players logged in, how long they've been on it.
Yeah.
And ultimately, with that and your playbook and understanding how technical it was and learning that and just knowing your assignments, because it's do your job and do it well, and then trust that everyone else is doing theirs. And that really, I loved it. At the time, maybe not so much because it was hard work and all that sort of thing. But equally, I know the question I've got is, when you do it well and you get it, and then practice, and then you get a packet of Haribo or something like that, and it's just, and you get that kind of well done. That's what you're there for. It was always a good thing, and I think anybody that loves that technical side of it, they should get involved, because it is a great thing.
It is, and that's it. It's a huge part of what we do. And I think that sort of example kind of emphasises, like, the expectations we have at the Pirates are pretty high. You know, we're the best team in Scotland. We're sitting third in the North at the moment, and if we win on Sunday, depending on how the rest of the season goes, there's still a couple of games to be played. This is our last regular season game, but if we win on Sunday, we're probably in the playoffs, assuming that Coventry don't then beat Manchester as well. You know, so we're a decent team at a decent level, and there are teams out there, right? In truth, there are teams that play in Scotland who are much closer to the kind of pub team mentality. You know, film and practices, even kind of practice planning is not particularly well done there, and that's, you know, that's fine for them if that's the type of team they want to be. But we're trying to be something above that. You know, we're trying to be in a position where we're competing for national championships and, you know, kind of getting to the playoffs or getting back to the playoffs, really. So it does, you know, it is demanding, and the stuff we've talked about there is before you've even been to the gym. You know, there are expectations there. You've got a gym program that's specific to your position, and you're in 3-4 times a week. You know, so there is a lot to it. But, you know, I think speaking to your listeners, you know, if there are people out there that think, you know, I've got what it takes and I really want to give it a go, and they're based in the west of Scotland or beyond. We have guys that travel from all sorts. I'm through in Edinburgh. We've got guys that come from Ayr and Troon. We've got guys that come this year. We've had guys down from Aberdeen and Dundee playing for us. You know, I think if you've got guys that are out there watching that think, you know, I've got what it takes and I'm willing to put the effort in, then tell them to get along, you know, or get in touch. We'd love to hear from them.
That's the hard side of the game. Now I'm looking for you guys to tell us about the upsides of it, the camaraderie, the bus trips, the nights out. What, you've done all the hard work. What's the reward for all that at the end of it? What's the memories that you guys have made from your times that you are allowed to share with us?
Of course. I'll let Mikey go first on that one.
If you ever have an away trip, that we're Pirates, so the rum is always flowing, as you can imagine. There's some other thing and all that would be definitely flowing. It's like the guys like a bit of buckfast at times, but
absolutely.
But what I would say is, I mean, one of my big things in Spoonie, whenever we used to get a good result or a win or that, and if you're ever at a game, don't leave straight away. Wait till you hear Spoonie do a breakdown at the end, and then that's when you can hear it, because you end up. I mean, my number was 90, and I think the season I was playing, one of a couple of seasons, there was like 96, or we went right up to. But I think, in fact, I think Tom might have been 98 that season. But you're there with guys that all have jobs, a lot of them. Some of them are students. Guys go. I mean, I started the same year as Chris Dick, and Chris was captain as a wide receiver a few weeks back. Do you know what I mean?
It's his last game. If we don't win Sunday, that'll be his last game. We retired.
I started. Gordon Wallace was my rookie year, and Ian was my So I think back to all the guys when I was a rookie, and we all started, and some of them are luckily more than me still playing, but it's like people you still speak to, and you lose contact and stuff. But I mean, I bumped into Spoonie walking my dog around the park the other week, and bumped into Nicky, and it was like, and it's that way. You meet people from a shared love of the sport, and you grow a bond, because ultimately, like I said earlier, you put on pads and you go out there to do your job, hoping that if you do your job and your teammate next to you does their job, and that bonus, that when you get a good positive yardage or a positive play or an interception or the guys, it's like there's no better feeling. It's no. And then if you're on an away trip and then you've got a 5-6 hour bus journey back, it's even better. It's like
We've had some wild bus trips. I suppose for me, there's a few things. One is, when the Highland Show was on last month, I went on the Friday, and every year I go along on the Friday with Ryan Hunter, who I played alongside. The two of us joined the Pirates the same year, and then Martin and Towler and J Moss came along this year as well, and the five of us all played together. There's still guys I'm really close with, and we don't see each other that often. In some cases, J Moss and I still coach together, but the other ones only see a handful of times a year because we're getting older and we've got kids and all that sort of responsibility. But those guys are people that I just love spending time with. This weekend I was down at the coaches convention. I've got friends right across the UK now. I've emceed. I emceed a wedding down in the Midlands a couple of years ago for a guy down there that I've known through the sport. One of my closest friends in the sport is a guy called Pete Jones, who's the head coach of the Bristol Aztecs at the other end of the country. All these guys you build these lovely bonds with and stuff. And when I stood up at my wedding, I got married in 2013, and when I stood up to give my groom speech, there was a big long table of my wife's family, a big long table of my family, and a big long table of Pirates. It's like it becomes a huge part of your life. And I consider myself incredibly lucky to have had the opportunity to be involved with the Pirates, and especially now to lead it after all these years. And I've met some fantastic people, Mikey included. There's lots of guys that have come and gone over those years. Not everybody has 20 years of their life they want to commit to one organization like me, but like the people you meet along the way, it's really special. And yeah, we had some absolutely wild times. When we won the Division 1 final in London, at Crystal Palace in 2011, we beat the Leicester Falcons. That was like a 10-hour bus journey back, and it was complete and utter chaos. We're playing Dana White's slap league that he's got. You've seen that? Yes. We had a game called Slaps. He's obviously just ripped off, and I got the jaw and broke my teeth on the way home from that final. It was just like that's the sort of chaos. It's a little bit tamer now, and I think the culture of drinking with young people is quite a bit different to what it was, when we played. You can even see that now. But like they're a great bunch of lads, and the social elements of it are really, really special. And it's those moments of success, those moments of achievement, and those moments of adversity as well. Some of the memories that we have as a group of friends out at the Highland Show, having a few pints of diesel and reminiscing the years were the tough times as well. And it's amazing how we've all got all these challenges and adversities that we face in our life, whether it be our family, whether it be our work, our health, and some of the stuff that's going on outside of our lives. The kind of some of the geopolitical stuff can be difficult for a lot of people. But you go along on a Thursday and you go along on a Sunday, and you've got a group of guys that really care about one another, and you can use it as a chance to get away from all those things and just get the pads popping. It's a beautiful thing.
I will just jump in with that as well, Keith. Right, because Spoonie touched on it there, but during one of my seasons when I was playing, I had a exceptionally challenging 2 months. I lost an uncle and I lost a grandpa at the same time, and I remember being like, my head was away, it was gone, right? And every single player at the time was reaching out, and I remember Amanda sent flowers to my house, kind of thing, and just see the little touches like that people take your time and all that, and all the people that help the game day experience in the background, and even to the selling the merch and stuff. And it's like you really got affiliated to the people and everybody that came together. And it's 10, 12 weeks of the season, like the year kind of thing, when you're playing the games and you get together, but you look forward to it. And it was a kind of special bond with a lot of the people at the time when I was playing. And Spoonie and the guys have got a great relationship. So it's hence why he's back in the main man and all that. So it's definitely something that's good.
There you go. That's a lovely touch, mate. That sense of belonging, which I think quite a lot of people in this digital age, when everything seems to be online, and too many of the young people are just getting caught up on that. I've got my son up the stairs playing just now. He's EAFC, but thankfully he can interact with his pals there. But tomorrow, even when it's raining, I'm going to try and get him out for a wee kickabout with his pals in the pouring rain, so he can do that as well. I think that's what your sport and your team does really well, is it brings some people that are a wee bit disenfranchised and brings them together, gives them that sense of family, belonging, and gives them somewhere to focus their energies. and it's great to see. It's a long-lasting effect, which helps people as they go through the tough times. As Mikey says, sport's a wonderful thing for doing that, for just taking your mind off it, but also having the pals and that make sure that they keep in touch with you, check in with you, which we implore everybody to do with their pals every once in a while. We'll be doing podcasts on mental health over the course of the season, because I think it is something that affects so many young people, and is just now, as we were talking, there's so many young males that play the game in Scotland. It's opening up to women as well, especially through flag, which is great, but it's a great way of highlighting the dangers of suicide and the problems that are around there, but how you can be proactive and help yourself by involving yourself. Maybe not even being part of the actual team and playing games. There's always stuff to do around it, as you said.
Well, just as you said that, like, I got injured, and this was one of the things when I was playing. I said about how it was difficult and we used to have harder practices. Well, I remember getting Paul McCleary and Big Mark Curacao, both of them sandwiched me in a practice one time, and I ended up pulling 3 muscles in my hip flexor, and was done, and decided I want to go back and practice on Thursday down at Stonehouse, and thought, I'm going to do this, and done myself for even more. But I still went along to every practice. I still went to every game. I still went because I was still on film, because I was like, I didn't want to miss it. I didn't want to miss the kind of bond and see what people were doing. And even when it was a game day, I remember before we moved to Giffnock, I remember having to paint the white lines at Hamilton.
Oh yeah.
and it was like, you just do it because, like you said there, it was a sense of belonging, because at the time in my life, before kids and all that, it was like that. It was just amazing. It was such a good thing. So
we've got a robot that paints our lines now, Mikey. We're living our best lives at GHA. It's not ours, it's GHA. But to AI. That point, I want to touch on a few things there. One is, we've spoken about coming along and playing and coaching and stuff, but there's opportunities. Like, we've got Kerr, who's one of our players' dads, who's been with us right through since I was coaching his son at juniors, who films all our practice and our games. We've got Jordan's dad, Eddie, comes along and does all the kit management and everything. We've got loads of people get involved. But tell you what I'd really love, and I think this could be a great avenue to find it, is people out there who are great with social media, putting together little reels and kind of, bringing things to life in that way. That's something we're just a little bit light on. We don't have a huge amount of resource, and we'd love to have people that, if that's a passion of yours, or even if you're a student who's looking to put together a portfolio of different stuff that's maybe a bit unusual compared to what your friends are doing, get in touch. We'd love to hear from you, because I've seen how impactful that can be, and it's a sport that really lends itself to that, because it's short, explosive plays, all that kind of stuff. But I think, to your earlier point, I always say this to my players, I love to win, right? Like, I love to win and I hate to lose, but my win-loss record will not go on my gravestone. That's not what I'll be remembered for. What I'll be remembered for will be the impact that I have on the people that I touch in my life. And I think, my opportunity to help build a community and make something that we're all proud of, and by doing the right things and approaching things in the right way, we'll win more than we lose. And I think, you're absolutely right. One of my former coaches, Nicky's younger brother, Michael, he runs one of the Andy's Man Club nowadays, and given that opportunity to help with people's mental health. So he might be a good guy for you guys to get on when you get into the season. But
absolutely,
it's like we live in an incredibly connected and also incredibly disconnected world these days. And I think things that actually physically bring people together, give them a shared sense of purpose and stuff, can be incredibly powerful. So.
Outstanding. Spoonie, this has been an absolute pleasure. One last time, if you want to give us the details for the matches on Sunday, please.
Absolutely. It's the last home games of the season for the East Kilbride Pirates. Our under-19s contact team kick off at 12, and our senior team, of which I am the head coach, kick off at 3:30. The juniors are playing the Napier Knights from Edinburgh, and we're playing the Manchester Titans, and those are both taking place at GHA Glasgow Hutchison Aloysius Rugby Club on the south side, just in Giffnock. Piratesfootball.co.uk if you want to know more, and there's obviously the socials, as you'd expect, and we'd love to have you along. It's £5 entry for adults, free for kids, and if you come along and watch the under-19s, you can get in free and just stay after that. The bar's open, there'll be pies. What more can you want?
I'll just add on that, back to that, Keith. £5 an entry, isn't it? And then if you're an ex-Pirate, it's free entry.
If you're formerly associated with Pirates in any way, get yourself along for free. We'd
Get
love
along.
to see you, because it's celebrating the kind of history and the legacy of the club this weekend, so that'll be great.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Spoonie. It's been an absolute pleasure. Mikey, thank you so much for your input. It's been great to hear your side as well, being a player, and the input that you and the contribution you've made to the team over the past 2 decades, Spoonie. Thank you so much. Look forward to many more years, and we'll be getting down. The crew will be there on Sunday cheering you on.
Love that. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Magic.
Awesome.
Right.
Thanks.
We will be back in the next couple of weeks with our previews for the NFL season starting. So keep a wee eye out for that. Until then, thanks very much for listening.